Welcome to In the Hot Seat. For our repeat viewers, thank you for joining again. For those that are new to the show, every 2 weeks we put industry experts and or customers in the hot seat for what we hope is a lively discussion, debate, maybe a little discourse. So we try to humanize the digital experience. All aspects of the customer life cycle are up for discussion, as well as the technologies used throughout each phase of the journey. This episode kicks off another round of our CX regional view, AI and CX this time. And we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Latin America and in a little bit bring in an expert to help us try to understand what's going on at that intersection of AI and CX there. So Kristy, what are you thinking about when it comes to Latin America and CX these days?
Well, I think the thing that is most intriguing for me is the whole WhatsApp thing. That's new for me, and I am dying to hear Jesus talk more about that.
Yeah.
I have no point of reference and no context for it, so I'm dying to hear how that's working.
Yeah, I know it's been a big opportunity for voice and for connectivity. I think across it's kind of like this common infrastructure that I think grew up a while ago. But yeah, that's interesting. I was doing a little research this morning, just trying to understand kind of where things were and give us a little background. And it does seem like it's, from for the data I could see, it looks like one of the faster growing regions in, deployment, AI deployment overall. Now, whether that's CX or not, I'm not as sure. But I know there've been some good examples like LATAM Airlines apparently has moved from proof of concept to production, and their multi-call center, multi-country deployment, which they said was like 1.5 million calls a month or something like that. So, I mean, it does seem like there's some uptake there.
Yeah, they're clearly not waiting. They are clearly, they're headlong into, okay, how do we operationalize and monetize this? They're not waiting for anybody. So this is, I think, going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and no surprise too. The other limiter or barrier ended up being, connectivity, data and data governance, and then of course talent in general, which it comes up in every conversation I have about the U.S. too. So
right.
Well, why don't we let me do a quick introduction, but why don't we bring Jesus in and let's just ask the expert instead of us trying to make stuff up. I mean, although I can always make stuff up. So Jesus is the principal consultant at CX2 Advisory, recognized LinkedIn top voice, specialized in CRM strategy, customer engagement technologies, over 22 years of experience. And I think I've known you for all that time, Jesus. He advises companies across North America, Latin America, beyond, in integrating marketing technologies to enhance customer relationships. He's also the co-founder and partner at Solvis Consulting, where he works on CRM implementations across a bunch of different industries, including telecom, banking, retail, manufacturing. He's the host of a podcast, Podcast de CRM. My Spanish is terrible there. And sharing insights on CRM trends and technologies. So, and obviously I know him as an independent analyst, influencer, and certainly is focused for years around bridging the gap between technology and business strategy, particularly around the customers in ad tech, martech, RevOps, customer service. So, Jesus, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kristy. Bienvenidos al asiento caliente. I don't know if that's the actual translation, but happy.
I know caliente means hot.
Works for me.
I know. So
sounds good to me. Like I said.
Hopefully, I think I can tell you a few things about Latin America. So
awesome. Well, I've known you for years. You've worked across companies all across the region, and I'm just curious, kind of to start out, what's the conversation like around AI these days, and how it intersects with customer experience, and you see the North American market too, and Europe as well. I mean, how's it different in Latin America versus kind of what we're seeing in the rest of the world?
Yeah. Before I answer that, let me give you my three different hats for this hot seat. okay, because that's where I gather a lot of my primary, secondary research. You know, like you mentioned, I'm a founder of Service Consulting, where we do actual real implementations and probably more optimization fixes. We put the Legos together. Okay, any CRM tool in the ecosystem, and then of course, you know, a CX2 Advisory, where we probably you said like more than 20 years. You know, I help companies understand Latin America as an influencer analyst, especially companies, you know, where they want to, you know, open, you know, operations in Latin America. And lately, I've been talking to a lot of AI companies who wants to, you know, open businesses in the United States, but they are from India or they are from Europe. Okay, so they want to set up job besides the traditional, CRM companies. And then, of course, in the last 3 years, and this will be probably my heads up towards AI. You know, companies say, "Hey, I want to do something with AI, but how do I start?" And I said, "Well, with the foundation, with the data. So let's figure out how your CRM is doing." And I've been doing a lot of CRM coaching for CMOs, COOs in different places, not only Latin America, in other regions besides the States, to be sure that they understand what that means. And you know, AI in Latin America, from the small business point of view, you know, anything that has to do with messaging, anything that has to, you know, in this case, WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or your web chat, okay, that has to do with, you know, customer service, collections, setting up appointments, okay, and you know, improving your e-commerce experience. Okay, that's where a lot of the small businesses and a lot of retails, small, medium, you know, large enterprises are using AI, and AI, not AI agents yet. Okay, even though there's a big push for the, you know, the makes, the N8N, the Zapiers, you know, to do a lot of automations. Depending on the different growth. So that is happening in there a lot, especially around WhatsApp. Okay. WhatsApp is the only one communication channel in Latin America, you know, because it's effective. However, WhatsApp is becoming a cost. So I see a lot of people say, you know, I want to set up the WhatsApp. You know, you want to do WhatsApp business, you know, you go to a Facebook, you know, business manager as an organization, and you set up your WhatsApp, and you need to set up your templates, and you need to send, you know, messages and receive messages. That has a cost. Where, you know, if I respond from WhatsApp from here, you know, of course, it doesn't have a cost. But if you want to bring it as an omni-channel, multi-channel, a good structure, understand analytics, when to respond, when not to respond, like a traditional phone call or emails, well, you know, you need to pay for it. Now, if you look at call centers and you look at customer service, you know, like you mentioning, you know, LATAM Airlines, and there's many good examples out there, you know, definitely, you know, there is a lot of AI going on from that point of view, expedite the process. Saying that, you know, a lot of the AI that is being used is, you know, let's set up something through WhatsApp, either a chatbot, a chat flow, or a more intelligent process, you know, how to do this. But this is the challenge that I'm seeing a lot. And that goes back to, Michael, what you say in the intro. It has to do about data. Data, not only, you know, the right emails, the right phone numbers, first and last name. Because remember, you know, my name is Jesus Manuel Hoyos Delgado. Okay, and that's how you need to set it up in a CRM system. Wow. In a traditional CRM system, it doesn't come like that. It's Jesus Hoyos, first and last name.
Right.
You know, so and the last name is the key. So here comes the issue. Well, I need to fix that. So people start putting whatever, and then you start breaking up, or actually not putting together the right data model. Okay, WhatsApp is used as the key. The email is used as the key. Well, I have 3 emails. I might have 2 phone numbers. One WhatsApp, the other one is a regular business home. You know, I have multiple addresses. So the traditional B2B, B2C CRM system, they don't have that. In a marketing automation system where we have a lot of marketing automation system in Latin America, okay, besides, the traditional Hotspot, Marketo, Pardot, or whatever we have in the States and Europe, the key is the email. When you move to the CRM system, when you move to the Salesforce automation system, SFA, okay, not that I made that distinction, because CRM is the whole ecosystem. You're an account. And then when you move to, application that will manage your journeys, you're a subscriptor. You need to have, opt-in, opt-out, email, WhatsApp, and so on and so on and so on. And the challenge that we see a lot is that all that is becoming like a one universe, which means omni-channel. Okay, and how are you going to manage all that? And then you're telling me you want to do AI, So yes, it's I mean, ChatGPT, and you can look at all the Gartners and the Forresters and the Forsters, analysis, and there are things happening, but the base foundation is not there yet, and the omni-channel is not there yet, and people are doing bits and pieces. There are companies who are doing definitely a lot of digital transformation. Coppel in Mexico, a huge retailer. I mean, they've been doing this for the last 20 years, and they're going leader by leader. And a lot of data governments, a lot of things are happening. And here's the thing. This is where you see tools like Soho One that have a tool that to do data management, Soho Data Prep. You have now Odoo, who's trying to enter into the market, or they're already in the market. NetSuite, SAP Business One, Mondays.com. Those are, from the small business point of view, those are the ones who are there. Then you have, of course, Salesforce, HubSpot, and the other, the one they want to do the enterprises. But the challenge here, AI, data, you might look, I don't know, a large, US company or European company that they want to do AI and CRM, but they have LATAM budgets.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
You have to come up with a solution for that.
It's interesting, Jesus, because I think if we'd had this conversation 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been talking about AI, but we would have had the same conversation.
Right.
It's like,
it feels like the age-old issue.
Who's who, where, and how do you know who I am when I'm in WhatsApp versus I'm on Facebook versus I'm on your website versus, I mean, it seems like some of those conversations, they're still, plaguing the system, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. And what name to use based on your culture, right? I mean, Latin America is one example, but you look at people in India, right? And we often call them by a name that isn't actually what everybody else calls them because they're set up that way in the system and it's not correct.
Yeah, and again, LATAM is not one size fits all. Here in the States, I press one for English. I don't press two for Spanish. Okay, so that's me. So, but at the same time, I was in Puerto Rico, where I'm from Puerto Rico, and I had issues with the internet where I was staying. So I called, and the call center was in Medellin, Colombia. So it wasn't a local call center in Puerto Rico. So I have to switch, to my Spanish and and think about as a paisa, people from Medellin, because it's totally different from that point of view. But saying that, Brazil is different from Mexico. The Andean region is, there are different countries, but they're sort of together. And then you have the Southern Cone, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Chile. They're all different, and depending on your market, depending of your buyer personas, you probably have to have people dedicated for that market, meaning that selling in Medellin is different from selling in Bogota.
Sure.
Selling in Monterrey, Mexico is different from Guadalajara and Mexico City. And we need to understand that those nuances, I mean, they need to be there. I mean, my best friend in Puerto Rico, James O'Connell, Irish Puerto Rican. Okay. One of my business partners, John Davis, Colombian. Okay. And, you know, not because you name Jesus Hoyos, you know, you need to understand that, because, you know, once you understand with data who's your buyer persona, your ideal customer person, that's where you understand how to use AI. So you still need to do the due diligence to understand that. And this is funny because, you know, we recently did a go live in a company in Honduras, and we brought everything, you know, into the CRM system to manage, you know, duplicates and clean the data and, you know, use Soho data prep and everything, you know, and everything was based on email, phone numbers, no ID, a lot of duplicates. So we said, well, let's use AI to see if they can help, you know, ChatGPT, the AI that comes with the CRM system. No, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything because the data there's no foundation, you know, for the data.
Yeah.
You know, so what we do, well, let's export that. Let's give it to somebody in Excel. Let's go one by one, you know, and clean it, because there's no standard for phone numbers. There's no standard for emails,
Right.
you know, and the +1 or the +52 or whatever, you know. So a lot of that foundation, doesn't matter, you know, where you at. Companies are trying to understand that today.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's really
America.
that's really complex if you think about it. Because like you know, my reaction when I talk to companies here about data is, you know, there's some really good agentic data automation, you know, maintenance, data quality. Some of those tools are really starting to evolve. But if the base standards are so different, but even just from town to town or city to city and in country to country, that must create a much bigger problem than just we want to have good quality data.
Yeah, and that applies. You know, you're a small company in Latin America doing commerce, because e-commerce is booming. It's growing like crazy. You know, the VTEX, Tienda Nube, Shopify. You know, there's many out there. They're growing, but the problem here is the last mile. You know, and the payment system. How to connect that with the CRM system, and that's a huge opportunity. And this is the thing, you know, like, you know, I don't know, probably you heard about Nubank. You know, it's the first digital bank in Latin America, you know, from Brazil. It's now in Colombia. They're expanding in Mexico, and they're going to go after. Everything is digital. So you know, and that proves that the LATAM market, you know, is moving ahead, because, you know, you can do banking through WhatsApp in Latin America.
Wow.
Okay. You know, I won't do it myself. Okay. But but it's a reality. And then, you know, we're talking about the super apps. You know, Mercado Libre, you know, already have a super app. You know, they do a lot of stuff. You know, they are not as big as Amazon or eBay, but in the market in Latin America, they're big. You know, so people are setting up shops in you know, with Mercado Libre. So understanding those nuances, understanding the opportunities in that market, doesn't matter if you're a CRM vendor or you are, you know, somebody who wants to sell in Latin America, or you are local in Latin America. You know, you need to think about setting up that base, okay, of clean data, that base of understanding your data model, okay, making sure that you maintain it clean, putting the you know, the keys, you know, to close the windows at the door so the data doesn't become messy. Okay, protect that data, and it's important. And let me rephrase this. You know, protect your data. It's the data that comes from Facebook through, you know, lead ads. It's the data that comes from Google Analytics. It's the data that comes from your Shopify. It's the data that, you know, your call center will enter. You know, the conversations, you know, that you're listening in Spanish or English in your call center. all the activities, all the interactions, all that data is important. And then if you connect it with the data model for Jesus Hoyos, that have 3 companies, as a household, all that data. And unfortunately, that data model today is, is in Amazon, it's in Facebook, it's in Shopify in a sense. So we need to learn from that and bring that, and today with all these tools, and this is what I tell my customers who are small businesses, you start using these tools, you can compete with the big ones. Okay. Yeah. So that's something that is happening a lot. However, everything is about budgets, so people are trying to see, that's why Soho and Odo are becoming extremely popular, because they have flexibility, to have, like expandable, your pricing can expand and you can reduce it. Is becoming a really good attraction, even though they might not offer everything that you need. Okay, but budget-wise, I mean, that's imperative, especially now with AI, where, a lot of this stuff comes already with the tool, and that's what a lot of companies are trying to leverage, how I can leverage AI to do, the messaging, through WhatsApp and do chatbots through WhatsApp and everything, to make sure that happens, Collection is big too, and they're using AI to do a lot of collections in Latin America. So it's driving, people are doing it, but WhatsApp is the place to go.
So the collection call comes from AI?
Yeah. And you have an actual voice with that accent from Medellin or Mexico City. And then when you say, you know what, I know you're a bot, I want to talk to a human, here comes a human. That is happening. That is happening. And you're expecting to have your delivery and it's not on time, you make a phone call or you chat through WhatsApp, and here comes the digital, person telling you, and then whenever you want to switch, they switch to Spanish. Now, those are specific cases for that channel. Companies are not yet ready to do omni-channel with that. Okay, to do upselling and cross-selling. Not everybody's ready to do that. But for specific channels, so there's some basic stuff. And I do remember, and let's go back to the to the definition of AI, machine learning, deep learning. I'm in Mexico, in Santa Fe, is like the corporate side of Mexico City, and I know that from there to go to La Reforma, those are 9 miles, but with traffic could take 2 hours. So I call the Uber. From Uber, I call through the app the laundry service. So make sure that when I get there, they're there, so I can drop off my clothes. I do my shopping with assisted AI back then, machine learning, deep learning, and somebody who called me say, hey, Jesus, this particular chicken that you want to buy is not here, it's in another supermarket, and we go to the other supermarket to buy it. So I did all that while in Uber. I got home, the food was delivered. At the very end, I didn't want to cook, so I called Uber Eats. Okay, Uber Eats came in, and everything was there. And then when I left, to take a walk around Reforma, boxes of, Mercado Libre, eBay, Amazon, everywhere.
Yes.
And this is prior, the pandemic. So all this is happening. The thing here is, and to manage that volume, you need AI. Back then, you still, you need AI, and not the AI agent, because we're getting into that. But what I see lately, talking to a lot of my friends who are doing specific AI examples, they're focusing more in a small LLMs, or small language models, specific to LATAM, that they understand the nuances for that particular industry, for that particular accent of that person, very specific. They are not relying on large language models. Okay, they are not. they are focusing more into small things,
Yep.
And I've been talking to a lot of those guys, for my secondary research, and that's driving. That's a lot of people are doing that everywhere.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah,
the,
I mean,
what's
that's-
the, no, there's
I was just
a, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the same thing here, right? I mean, that's a big push is very segmented, so vertical, very functional, and small and mid-sized size in the language model to the problem, not just using a large language model for everything. So that actually makes a lot of sense, I think, from what you've described there, and how specific things need to be, language and all the other sort of constraints.
Yeah, and when you think Latin America, from that point of view, you need to think mobile first, not AI. Okay, because everything is, Latin America is very WhatsApp oriented, messaging oriented, and is central to everything that you want to do in LATAM. So you got to think Android, and for some specific market, your iPhone, So that's very, very important. However, in terms of CX, you need to be sure that you have the pre, during, and after CX journey, okay? Because there is a lot of there's a lot of CX certifications. There's a lot of my friends who are, implementing CX. But CX means in Latin America, from the time that you leave your home, you go to the parking lot, you open the door, somebody says hi to you, you buy what you need to buy, okay? And you go back home. Okay, that's the definition of CX. It's digital first and offline as well, all that combined. So empowering your employees with the right data so they can make choices, not only AI, but your employees so they can make the right choices, that's very key in Latin America.
So when you talk to these SMB leaders in Latin America, and you talk to them about AI in the customer experience, what are their biggest fears or their biggest misconceptions?
The first one, depending on the country, the privacy laws, because, privacy laws and compliance, and then of course, small businesses specifically can, who can hack my data? Can somebody go through the chat, ask a question, boom, and they get access and they get out? So security, common sense stuff, that they don't know, which in large companies that might already be solved. But privacy, consent, hacking my data through that process, is secure enough? What can I do? And yes, a lot of people say, I want AI because I can increase the number of people that I have. Okay. But this is increase and be sure that they, there's a shortage of good people. We're talking the AI is going to replace people, but who are they going to replace? Because I mean, this is worldwide. We don't have, I've been helping companies the last 2 years in getting the right people for the CRM projects, interviewing them, hiring them, upskilling, make sure that they have the right human skill set, versus the technical skill set. So, especially in call centers, one of the things with AI, people come in through the door and they leave the next day through the same door, the turnover is high. So I said, can I have AI agents who can do that mundane, traditional, repetitive work, and then I can have concierge services and I can have other areas. That's happening a lot in the call center in Latin America. Call center in Latin America for the United States, and call center for for the LATAM market. That's a huge use case, there, definitely. Because you don't have to hire more people, because that you have to train them, you have to bring them up to speed, that could take 30, 60, 90 days, maybe more.
Right.
I mean, it is an equalizer. I've seen that when I survey, small, medium business often are saying this helps them be more competitive, and they feel more compelled to to move down this path than, maybe even some of the larger businesses that are a bit more conservative about their approach. I mean, are you seeing the same thing in Latin America, or are small to medium business sort of leading the adoption there?
You have like opposite sides. You have the big companies who already have a transformation guidance. They're getting into AI, doing it properly. Okay. Then you have the people. Can AI help me, increase my quota this month because I need to meet my numbers? Okay, and that goes nowhere. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have the small businesses. I need to grow. I need to open an office, in one particular city. I need to be sure that with what I have, can AI help me do that? And there you have some specific use cases, that can help you, and then you call, the guy locally who knows AI, and then, good luck. I mean, there's good people out there. There's a lot of stuff, but at the very end, you need to have, the compliance, all that kind of stuff. But the companies who, from my point of view, the companies who are doing CRM, the foundation, the right people, the right data model, the right purchase of Soho, Salesforce, or HubSpot, because people are still blind. Whatever they don't know what they're buying. Let's put it that way. If that's repetitive, it doesn't matter. Okay, and there's a lot of telling people, buy this, remove that, add more users, don't use this. I've been doing a lot of that, and a lot of my colleagues in LATAM are helping companies. Let's fix what you have today, from technology, data, people, and contract negotiations from that point of view. I want to make a note of something that is really happening in Latin America with AI, in marketing. A lot of the, agencies are speeding up, the sales cycles or the marketing qualified leads, or trying to solve the attribution issues, for marketing. They're using AI a lot. So that side is perfect. However, and again, they're talking mostly B2C, I want to sell you a widget. I want to go faster into the market. I want to move quickly. I want to, do more product activations, in volume. So that's happening a lot. However, that might be happening faster, but by the time you sell it, your call center for customer service or your retail stores, they might not be ready with the inventory. They might not be ready with the right people to understand how to, sell that product that was promoted with AI, and content management, not only for marketing, needs to follow up. So that's a huge gap. And I see that with American companies in LATAM and local companies. And that goes back to CX, the content that you put on Facebook, okay, the AI ad, that you're seeing, or whatever, TikTok that you see, that turns into a call to action. That call to action, marketing ends right there. And then that call to action follows through, with the salespeople, B2B and B2C, and then with customer service, and then the delivery, field service. If you don't have that CX, and again, I've seen that today with some of the pilots that I'm doing in Latin America, we're still doing AI by silos, islands, it's still separate. And that's unique everywhere. And that's something that I really, I'm frustrated with the vendors, because buy my AI for marketing, but you need to continue with that. So, and I see that today, with marketing, which is extremely strong with AI in Latin America. Some really good examples, but you fix something, but you break something else.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a good argument for the idea of embedded AI across the whole suite, like Zoho One, for example. That would actually work to their advantage, right?
Yeah.
As
a platform.
I have a customer in Puerto Rico said, nobody's going to be using any AI from any of the vendors. Okay, we're going to think about how we're going to use embedded AI using a platform. Give us a year. Use AI to do emails. Use AI to do presentations. Restricted stuff, but internally. Okay, and give us time, to figure out what to do. And I think that's wise. Take your time. Don't, start AI with the strategy. Don't start AI with the hype. And Michael, you probably, in many of the briefing that we've been with many of the CRM vendors, the companies were doing AI today. They started like 5 years ago. And they have a chief data officers, and they have a CEO who's, is into AI, and they have a strategy, and they understand content, and they know, the benefits and the do's and don'ts, and they're still learning, so it's going to take time, it's the same in Latin America. It's the same in Latin America.
Well, and the other thing too is there was a big push around, CDPs, customer data. A lot of companies did go into and try to start to put that data picture together, and those have had a leg up when it comes to adoption of AI, at least from what I've seen. I would imagine you're seeing the same thing in Latin America.
Snowflake, Databricks, all the data, the data clouds, the foundations, those are everywhere in Latin America, everywhere. AWS, Microsoft, Fabric, everything is out there. There are some local CDPs in Latin America because they are inexpensive. Okay, composable probably. I don't know if I want to say they're composable, but it's a mixture in there. But yeah, a lot of the Snowflakes, the Databricks, and a lot of companies are moving into that before thinking about a CDP. Okay, I was advising a customer in Chile. CDP is like in 2 years. AI is probably 3 years. This year and the following years is the foundation. Let's connect the dots. Let's put the right data model. Let's start data governance now. Let's start hiring people now. Let's start training them now. A lot of the stuff. And there's no data transformation yet. That's coming in the future. But at least start putting the right categories, pillars together. And so that's happening a lot. From that. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like the digital transformation. It's operations transformation, it's customers transformation. Digital and non-digital are part of that. In Latin America, there is a lot of concerts, events, outdoor events, activations. And not everything needs to be digital. From that point of view, and I used to work in a supermarket in Puerto Rico. The name is Town Pueblo, and I used to be in TV commercials singing salsa music. Hey, come over here and buy. That was my probably 2 seconds of fame back then.
Boy, I certainly do want to see a video of that. I'm going to have to go looking.
And that's still happening. Digital means that you're going to go to some place to share your experiences with others, give a hug, have that experience, that you're going to use digital for that. Yes, that's part of that, So not everything needs to be 100% digital, from that point of view. So that's happening a lot in Latin America. So when we think about CX, is everything about digital, and non-digital combined, where, you can, have a conversation with somebody and capture. And you know what I'm getting a lot? I want to be able to capture that conversation with my customers while I am on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't want to go home and enter in HubSpot or Salesforce or use the digital browser, the digital version of the digital app, because it's, we know that everything in the browser doesn't fit in a digital, app, a mobile app. So a lot of people want to do that. So a lot of people are using AI in Latin America. There's some good examples just to do that. Put the AI, button, and then your conversation, everything. And when it's finished, boom, updates your HubSpot, updates your Salesforce, updates homemade stuff done in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Medellin. To do that B2B and B2C, so a lot of that stuff is happening, small pieces growing, from that point of view, it's really happening.
Do you have any good examples, or could you talk us through what you think from especially from a small business or small medium business? How should they look at this? How should they go into this? And what do you think the process is to get from where they are today to a successful transformation using AI and CX?
Well, let me classify small business, because small, medium businesses, we have micro businesses, which is 3, 5, 10 people, and then you have, a small business where you might have 10, 20, up to 100, and then you have 100 plus. I have customers that are small businesses, probably 50, 100 people, that have large enterprise issues. For example, I want my CRM and my ERP to have different business units. Tell me where I can find that with the traditional CRM system. You don't. You don't. So when we talk about enterprises and small businesses, I mean, we need to classify that, because that's how, going back to your question, what type of small business you are in Latin America? Because again, you could be a large enterprise with a small business budget. So where do you need to start? Well, you need to start with your TCO. You need to start understanding, who you have internally, in terms of resources. If it's family business, can you trust that family member to help you with this? Or you need to bring expert advice, your employees. So you need to start with the talent in Latin America. There's a good talent out there, okay? But you need to keep it, okay? And that's very key. So the first thing, is small business, doesn't matter, which category of your small business, have that talent. Make sure that, they understand your north. And then, then focus on your data, okay? Understand your data, because you're moving from Outlook, or you're moving from Gmail, or you're moving from Excel, or this legacy ERP system that you want to bring into a CRM system connected with your ERP. Understand that, you probably need to have some sort of a mini master data management, or, understand who you are. And to it, there's free tools and free things that you can use to do it. But understand your data model, okay? Once you have that you have the right people, you have the data model, come up with your use cases, okay? And then, figure out the budget. So sit down with your chief financial officers. If you're the CEO and the chief financial officer, talk to the vendor or the vendors so they can help you put together that TCO for you. TCO for technology, people, everything, because that's how you're gonna be able to move to AI faster from that point of view. And again, we're talking AI, and and I said this one, I think it was in creation. They asked me, what do you think about AI? Well, we have a problem. We go to meetings, we don't show our faces. We go to meetings and we're not talking to each other. We're doing this, or hold on, let me get the coffee, I come back. We're not communicating as humans. We are not. So how the hell are you gonna try to figure out how to do AI when we're not communicating in one department? So and then again, and the reality in Latin America, we have the hierarchy in Latin America. Men versus women, all the traditional stuff that we got from Spain, sorry, Spanish people, but, that we still have the feudalismo, how I call it, we have that in our blood, and that takes, families first. I'm going to hire my uncle. I'm going to hire the best person that I know to do this because he's the friend of the friend. All that is there, and everything. You need to understand that. In order to we're going to have biases, it's going to be there, so that's, I'm a technologist. I like to think about technology first. I like to be, what I call a todista. I like to know everything about technology and bring my expert to help me so I can have the short and the long vision. But if you don't have the right person to understand that technology, and you don't bring the technology with the strategy, and you take care of those nuances for countries in Latin America, that's what you need to start with. And I think a friend of mine posted, Marco Matuk, he put it the other day, you need to have courage. Okay, and I think that's important. I mean, you need to have courage in order to jump in. Doesn't matter what type of small business in order to do it in Latin America. And that means if you are the AI vendor, okay, for the small business, or you're the CR vendor that want to sell AI, your AI, you also need to have courage. You need to put your commitment. You're not selling an SKU, Agent Force or Breeze or whatever. No, you're selling an outcome. And it doesn't matter how you're doing the pricing right now. You need to be there.
Yep.
And that's really important. So small businesses, doesn't matter where you're at in the world, because I've seen this in South Africa, and in Europe, and the Philippines. The vendor needs to be with you more than ever.
That's a great place to end it, Jesus, because that's all the time we have today. But this was amazing. And we didn't even get through a third of what we were going to talk about, which is kind of interesting. So this is great. You survived the hot seat. I will offer to anybody else out there, if you think you have what it takes to be in the hot seat, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. And that is your In the Hot Seat episode for today. Thanks so much for being with us this week. I'm Kristy Tupper.
And I'm Michael Fauscette. Tune in next time for different faces, different topics, and different perspectives as we put somebody different in the hot seat.
Thank you.